You're listening to the UoR Music Podcast. Hello and welcome to the UoR Music Podcast. My name's James Smith, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Ben Stone.
Hello. That's my new hand action, by the way. Do you like that? My hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
It is very good to see you. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. Yes, I'm very excited about this episode.
Why are you excited, Ben?
Well, I don't know if I can spoil it so soon, but we're going to be hearing some actual music.
What a music podcast.
I know. It's incredible. I know. I am genuinely excited for this.
No, it is very
some great
exciting.
guests lined
So
up.
today, this is our singer-songwriter special. We are going to be joined by two former members of the Singer-Songwriter Society at the University of Reading. We're going to be having a little chat to them, and we're going to be hearing some of their music. So here is the first ever song played on the UoR Music Podcast. It's Summer Hickory with Morning Sickness. So we are now joined by the person you just heard there, Summer Hickory. Hello, Summer. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So we just heard your track Morning Sickness, which is newly released. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about that song, what it's about?
Yeah, so that song comes from an album I made during lockdown. So it's the first track. I need to tell you the backstory of the album for it to make sense though. So the album is when you go through a breakup, apparently you go through 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And all the songs on the album they've been written, like the first one was written when I was like 16, and then it goes through all the way up until like this year. And it was this song when I looked through all the songs and I realized, oh, they all fit into each stage of grief, of going through a breakup. So that one, Morning Sickness, is from the first stage of denial, because you can hear it's like, oh, I'll wait for you, I can love us both until you can too. Like there's a lot of denial. And so that's what that one's about, and that's the first one on the album. And it's called Morning Sickness, right? Every time I say the title to people like give me a weird look, like, why is it called that? Are you trying to tell us something? No, it's because like, have you ever woken up when you're really sad? Have you ever woken up and then you remember why you're so sad, and then you get that kind of sick feeling? And it's about that feeling, and as a result of what the song's about, which is heartbreak.
No, I mean, I certainly got that kind of coming across from it. We'll come back to your album in a little bit, but first of all, we'd just like to hear a bit about you. So, kind of, when did you kind of start with your music? Has it been kind of since you were really, really young, or was it something you came to later on?
Yeah, I've been performing like at gigs and stuff since I was 13, because that was when I first got into it. I started writing about when I think I was like 12, and then not long after that, I had a cousin that took me to a recording studio, and it was like a community one. And then the sound engineers, they were like, oh, do you want to do this gig at the Derby Assembly Rooms? And I was like, yeah, why not? And then it just sort of grew from there, and I'd get invited to different gigs all over the place. And then like it got to a point where I performed at Why Not Festival, which is this big festival. I think that year Snoop Dogg performed there as well, but I can't remember. But yeah, so.
Oh wow! So that's pretty good thing to have.
I wasn't on the same stage with him, but I was at the same festival, so it's good enough. So yeah, I've done a lot since I was 13, but I'd never had a proper recording of my songs. That was like the next goal of mine. So it was this summer when just finished exams, we're in lockdown, nothing else to do, and I had the equipment because I bought it like 2 years before. So I was like, now's the time. And also I was lucky because I'd met my friend Joe like at the beginning of that year, well, at the beginning of 2019, whatever. And I knew that he produced music, so we like came up with a plan, like, all right, let's do this album together. And then it turned into this.
What's it been like recording in lockdown? What's it been like doing it all from home?
You know, I think that it was probably good, because if it hadn't have been for lockdown, I would have had an excuse to leave the house, and that's what I would have been doing, because it would have been the summer I'd graduated, and I would not want to be in the house. I'd be out there partying. That's what I'd be doing. So it was a good thing that we were in lockdown, because it just made me focus. And also at the same, it was like good. It was good that I had lockdown because it made me focus, but it was also good that I had something to do in lockdown, because otherwise I probably would have lost my mind. So it was good that I had that to do. And I had to just, like, I used my cupboard. I got like a cupboard with all my clothes in, and I used that as like a sound booth, because I read somewhere that it was good enough. And then I had my little audio interface and stuff that I got off like eBay secondhand, and that's how I made the album.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really sort of relatable story for, I think, a lot of artists, and that is certainly the way to start off. I mean, we're just using just a little audio interface, and we've got, just makeshift studio in our living room. So
you've certainly done more than
you've certainly been more productive than us. But yeah, no, it sounds. I would have said it was produced in a studio, in a proper, listening to. Did you do all the? So you say you worked with your friend Joe. How kind of was the split? Was it?
So it varied from song to song. So for that one that you just heard, Morning Sickness, he added so much to that. Like, I did the vocals, the harmonies, and the guitar, but he added all the other layers. And then sometimes for this other song for example, for this other song on the album, I knew how I wanted it to sound, and I knew the instruments I wanted. So I went on this website called BandLab, and I used my keyboard as a MIDI board and added all the like violins and trumpets and cinematic drums or whatever I wanted on it. And then I'd send it to him and he'd like copy and paste it. So for some of them, it was mainly him, some of them mainly me, and then some of them was like a mixture of the two of us. It was a good mix.
So you were part of the Singer-Songwriter Society from in Reading last year. Was it? Are you graduated now? Are you still part of that society?
Yeah, no, I was the president last year and then I graduated this year.
How would you describe your experience involved with the music scene at the university while you were here?
I would say up until like the last year when I was president of the society, I wasn't that involved in the music scene in Reading or the uni. I couldn't really find it. I didn't know where it was. I think I did like 1 or 2 gigs in like first and second year. And then when I came back, we just put on, there was more shows and we made more of an effort to do like big jams and things like that. And then that was when I was able to, and then I had other people from the society that were like, oh, there's open mics here, there's things to do here, and then it just opened up. And we did more collaborations with other societies as well, so that helped create more opportunities. So it wasn't until my last year that I really got involved in the Reading music scene.
So obviously you got to meet lots of people. So how do you feel that kind of social interaction of getting to work with lots of other sort of like-minded artists and musicians and people who are all kind of wanting to kind of get into writing their own songs? How do you think that helped you, and how did that sort of influence you in your own songwriting?
Yeah, I loved it from the society because there were so many different styles and then so many different instruments as well. For example, when I remember we had a big jam we went into the studios on London Road, and there was a girl called Renee and she could play drums, and then there was Ivan who was on the like rhythm, he was on guitar, and then I was on, and we improvised over the top of one of my songs, and it just like, we'd never practiced before together, but it was just amazing because I'd never thought of that. I think that was the moment when I realized I want to produce my songs, was when I was with all these people who could play these instruments, and it just added something more to the music, and I loved it. And that's what I loved about the society, was that everyone was so open to like singing together, doing duets or doing a little band thing, and it would all just be pretty much improvised or practice over a week, and then it was always sound amazing, and that's what I always loved about it.
We've been talking over the podcast about sort of the collaboration, the sort of the importance of music sort of bringing people together. So it's really interesting to hear that from your perspective. So.
Yeah, and then so let's talk about kind of wider influences and kind of people who've inspired you, or kind of other artists that you've kind of taken on board and then kind of put that into your music. Is there anyone that kind of jumps out?
It's really hard because the music I listen to does not sound like the music I produce, really. So when I first started writing, I liked Ed Sheeran at that time. I was like 12, 13, and I really liked Ed Sheeran. And that's how I looked at the structure of his songs, like, okay, verse, chorus, verse, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I decided to structure my songs. And then, obviously, I eventually broke away from that. And it just sort of morphed into my own style. To this day, I don't know how to describe what my music is. If anyone else can, like, I'm so open to it, because it's so hard when you're trying to pick a genre, and like all the websites are like, what genre are you? And I don't know. So if anyone can put my music into a genre, do it for me. But yeah, the music I listen to, like R&B, chill R&B mainly. I listen to all types though. Like there'll be Fleetwood Mac and all sorts in there. But when I was making, for example, when I was making my song Seeing Red, I just thought I want it to have like a Spanish vibe in it. And so I just went and looked up different Spanish songs, or like people that had done rap songs with Spanish influence. And I just wanted to see what had been done. So I could just take influence from anywhere, really. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint a specific artist or anything like that.
Well, I think that's the best way to be. I don't think you, as musicians ourselves, I don't think you really want to put yourself in a box and then kind of feel like you're trapped with everything you create that has to come in that category. And I think it's good. And I do feel your pain when people are kind of going to you kind of, well, what sort of music are you? What sort of musician are you? What artist? And you say, well, I'm a bit of everything. I just do what sounds good to me. And so you kind of have to make your own genre And then you kind of almost want people to be like, oh, well, I play kind of summer Hickory style music.
Yeah.
That's kind of where you want to
I'm
get.
going to have to start saying that because that's the only answer that I can think of now.
Because it's like you said about Ed Sheeran, you said, oh, I played in his style. And it is very much kind of, he did come along and sort of define that one person and a guitar scene. And I don't think anyone else has kind of come along who's been as big as he has, just as one man and a guitar. So I think if you would have kept along that line, that very much would have been how people would have carried on with the description. But now you've kind of gone this way of actually producing these much broader, and I personally think, no offense to Ed, I'm sure he's listening, but much more interesting and exciting music to listen to.
Music's much more exciting when it's yours. So it's great to
when you can actually hear that someone's putting them, and they're not just going, oh, chord.
Ed Sheeran.
Here's the structure. you're actually putting your feeling and the emotion into it, especially when you want to express something like you are with this particular album of, you know, feelings of a breakup. So I think that's really, really effective.
Should we take a listen to another track?
I think we should take a listen to another track. So do you want to tell us about the second one that we're going to listen to before we play it?
Yeah, so this one, it's called Seeing Red, and it's a lot more high energy, but not in a good way. It's from the stage of anger. So when I wrote this one, I was feeling rage. And it was actually, writing the song was so therapeutic, because I remember the moment I stopped and I played it through, and then I'd finished the song, and there was just like this wave of calm that came over me. And I think that was probably the moment. That was one of the moments I realised like how important music is for me to process my emotions. So yeah.
Fantastic. So this is Summer Hickory with Seeing Red.
But when it's morning, I don't know who I
So that was Seeing Red. Summer Hickory is still with us. So Summer, we were just chatting while that song was playing about one of your kind of major influences was to do with the LGBTQ plus community. Do you want to just talk a bit about how that's kind of influenced your music and particularly this album as well?
So yeah, you could kind of say that this album is like a coming of age album, because I wrote the earliest song on it I wrote when I was about 15, 16. And then they've all been since then. And it's all been the relationships I've had with both men and women since then, because I'm bisexual. So for me, it like shows the progression of like myself and my relationships and my emotions and my music. And that's all fits into this one album. And yeah, there's only like 10 songs on it. And I remember when I was like first looking at album, I was trying to see like, oh, how many songs should an album have and whatever. And then some albums have more songs on them, but it didn't feel right to force it. I couldn't force myself to write the songs. I can only write the songs when I have a reason to, really. Because in a way, like, the music is that kind of therapy for me, and it helps me process what I'm feeling. And if I'm not feeling anything, I'm not going to write anything good. So that's how I decided when I needed to finish, like, how it was going to end.
So do you just want to tell our listeners and our viewers, where can we find your music and your sort of presence online? Where would we be able to find you?
So if you want to listen to my music that's been released, any streaming service, so Spotify's the main one, Apple Music, all of them, Amazon Music, and anyway. The main place that you can find me is Instagram. So that's at Summer Hickory Music. I also have a Facebook page, Summer Hickory Music again. And basically, if you want to find me on YouTube, Twitter, anywhere, just type in Summer Hickory and it will probably come up. Because that was I'll tell you, that's the reason I had to adopt a stage name, because my real name is Georgia Fowler, my government name is Georgia Fowler, but there's already a famous New Zealand model called that. And every time you Google Georgia Fowler, it will just come up with her stuff and never my stuff. So I decided to change it this summer. And then my middle names, so I was like, well, it's still me.
So your stage name just comes from your middle names being Summer?
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure to also link all the socials and where to find Summer in our descriptions in our on YouTube or wherever you can listen to this podcast. So check that out.
And yeah, of course, when you finish watching this podcast, please do go and search for all the artists we're speaking to today and have a listen, because they are putting out some really good stuff. Otherwise, we're going to say thank you very much, Summer. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And
we can't wait to hear the full album.
Yeah, we can't wait for the album, which should be out sometime in the new year.
Yeah, there's no solid date yet, so you have to follow me on Instagram to know when it's coming out.
Keep your eyes peeled. Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Hey little sister, why you're alone? Coming down fast and climbing up too slow. Little sister, why don't you help me? Here at the genesis of reality. Oh little darling, bring me what you've theft. I've looked till there's no exit or left. Little sister, won't you tell me your name? I'm burning cold memories have started ungained. Who do you think you will know? Set the fire in the sinking boat, and I don't wanna know. Who do you think will get burnt in the fire of a destiny? Is it just to me? I could have murdered, I wouldn't rejoice. his soul. Who do you think you know set the fire in the sinking boat? And I don't wanna know. Who do you think will get burned in the fire of the destiny? Is it just me? Oh, who do you think you know set the fire in the sinking boat? And I don't wanna know. Who do you think will get burned in the fire of the destiny? Is it just me? I ain't touching nothing, so here it ends. It has been a while now and closes my rest. If only you could see me, little sister, see, then I would have taken you down with me.
Okay, so you just heard Edward House with Respondent, and Edward joins us now. Hello, Edward. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So welcome to the UoR Music Podcast. So just talk to us a little bit about the song we just heard.
So this song I wrote, I think, when I was in 10th or maybe 11th grade. So that's a very old song, but I'm still kind of proud of how I executed it. So at that period of time, I kind of felt very, isolated from the rest of my class. So it was a weird period, which ended as weirdly as it started, but still. And this period of isolation kind of correlated with the season. So it was winter, and here in Moscow the winters are cold and dark. So you wake up and it's dark, and then you come back from school and it's dark and it's cold and it's winter. The snowflakes fall down, and I had to take the train every morning to get to school. So this vision of like the old train station that I have near my house, and and because the station is only the station is lit and outside the station is very dark, so this kind of image is what I wanted to project into the mind of the listener. And so the lyrics actually explore the theme of of self-isolation, of having conversations with yourself, of a conflict, of inner conflict between yourself, of seek for advice, because for the character of the song, the little sister is actually the character's little sister, and he kind of wants an advice for her. He kind of wants her projection on and her reflection on his life and her advice, but he cannot get it because she died at a very young age. So it's a very dark song, indeed. And at the end, I think I want to think that at the end the character finds a peace, but I think it's open for interpretation.
Yeah, very, very kind of. I think I kind of got this sort of darker sort of energy from the song, but in a good way. So Edward, tell us a little bit more about you. So where did your music sort of start for you?
So I was forced to go to musical school, by my parents. So at that time, I did 5 years of musical school. I didn't really kind of like it. I studied guitar, and when I graduated, I didn't play guitar for maybe a year. But then I heard Green Day's "American Idiot," and the very first song, "American Idiot," and I was kind of blown away by the sound, but the massive sound, and the opening riff, which is very energetic. And that kind of, that provoked a new inspiration towards guitar. I started relearning the guitar again. And I started writing songs actually because one of my friends kicked me out of the band. So I played bass in a very sort of very teenage sort of mellow band, and the guy forced me to buy a very expensive bass amp and a bass, and he kicked me out of the band, and I felt really angry about that because that wasn't fair. So I said, you know what, screw you, I'm gonna write, and I'm gonna start writing my songs, and I'm gonna play my songs, and so there when I started writing songs, I started composing, and eventually I discovered GarageBand on my iPad, and from that on I started experimenting with recording, and trying to program other instruments that I did not play, the drums, the bass. so so it went and progressed.
Would you describe yourself now as kind of a sort of a multi-instrumentalist then, someone who kind of can do it all, or?
Well, that would be a bit of exaggeration, but I can do have the ability to play different instruments. Let's put it this way, and that really helps when because I'm kind of an indie artist and I have to compose music myself. So yeah, I do have understanding of how instruments work. So that, and I do understand what I want the pattern, let's say the drum pattern, to be for that particular song, and that I can do. But I'm really bad at drums and the piano. I'm really bad at that.
I mean, I call myself a drummer as well, but I'm.
Oh, James isn't.
I'm
You're not a drummer. You're not a drummer.
So let's move on to kind of talking a bit about your time at the university as well. So you were a member. You were also a member of the Singer-Songwriter Society. Have you graduated now?
Well, I'm still waiting for the diploma, but yeah, you can say that I graduated.
Yeah, as everyone is waiting right now, into a certain sense of the word, you've finished your degree. So what would you say about your time here? Part of the Singer-Songwriter Music Society, and also generally part of the music scene in Reading.
That was an interesting experience because I do not come from the UK, obviously. I come from Russia. And for me, studying at the university abroad was a generally whole different experience. And, the fact that there were societies, where people would, do something actually together. And, Reading has so many societies. I could barely choose from one. But then I decided to stick to Singer-Songwriter Society because I thought that fit me better. And from the very first session that we had, I felt like it's an amazing experience because I had to actually meet a lot of people who kind of share the same musical tastes and who are very welcoming, and they recognized that I was from Russia, and they explained everything to me, and they kind of shared their ideas, and we started having jam sessions, as Georgia said. So we started having actual jam sessions, and the jam sessions and the opportunities to play live, and there were many opportunities to play live. I've never played so many live concerts in 1 year, compared to previous years in my when I was doing my undergraduate degree. And the overall atmosphere of exchange of ideas, the overall atmosphere of creativity, and it was just welcoming. I felt like at home, and the jam session at the end of the week on Friday was a highlight of the week for me. I was always looking forward to it, and I'd say I had a lot of great time in Singer-Songwriter Society.
Yeah, so you talk about this sort of this jam session being kind of the highlight of your week. How important do you think that having that kind of release at the end of the week to look forward to, how important was that in sort of keeping you going when it came to kind of the monotony of university life and sort of mentally keeping you healthy and things? Do you think it played a big role in that?
I think it did play a major role in that, actually, a very huge one. I was always kind of a fan of jams, and I always thought that that musicians, especially nowadays, for some reason, based on my experience, musicians do not tend to collaborate much, do not tend to kind of share ideas. Everyone for some reason is very reserved, and they're very in themselves, and maybe some people are ashamed of their maybe musical capabilities, and they don't think that they can actually jam and contribute to the overall jam. But I completely oppose that idea. I think everybody should jam, and everybody, because jam is the place where ideas come out, and sometimes they don't, but maybe 7 out of 10 times it's going to be really cool, and the outcome might influence your ideas and your music production, and it's just fun because you can literally play maybe 2 chords, and then somebody would join on the piano, somebody would join on the drums, and somebody might even strum like 1 string on the guitar, depending on their abilities, but it's gonna create something. It's gonna create magic.
Do you still keep in contact with singer-songwriter sort of mates and like share music ideas with them?
I do keep in contact with Summer Hickory because I really even when we were jamming, Summer would share her songs and show her the songs, and I really liked them. I really liked the way she played the guitar and the way she composed songs because that was very new and fresh for me. And yeah, I do still kind of follow her on Spotify, and I'm looking forward to her new single and her new album. Yeah. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think there are many people. I do, actually, I do follow another guy from our society. He also kind of does Instagram kind of videos and stuff. But I think Summer Hickory is the only musician who actually puts out music online. So yeah, I try to, I try to stay in contact because it is interesting how people develop. It is interesting how what kind of music people create. So yeah.
We'll just have a quick word before we play your second track, just about your influences. And I mean, you talked earlier about Green Day and hearing that sort of American Idiot for the first time. Is there any other, or kind of would you be able to categorize? We talked a bit about this with Summer earlier, a bit about trying to categorize your music as it's a particular genre, a particular type, or would you once again say it's just kind of your own style?
That's a very good question. So I think that my major influence, and if I had to pick one, I would pick Jack White from White Stripes because I think fundamentally he kind of fundamentally influenced me. I remember in 2008 a movie was released. It was a documentary called "It Might Get Loud." You might have heard of it, and it was a movie, about three guitarists, essentially Jimmy Page, Edge from U2, and Jack White. So at that time, I knew who Edge was, I knew who Jimmy Page was, obviously, but I had no idea who Jack White guy was. No idea. Just Johnny Depp lookalike for me. And then I went in, and then I watched the movie. I was like, whoa. So, and the fact that Jack White, he could play a very ragged, old, worn-out guitar, and it would sound amazing. And at that time, I didn't realize that was important. I always thought that the best equipment, the best gear was important, so that can bring it to a next level. But Jack White, he kind of at the very beginning of the movie, he created a guitar out of an old piece of wood and the pickup, and it sounded amazing and cool. And I was like, well, that's I can make music now. So he literally showed me the way that you don't need that to be creative, to create music and to make it. But apart from Jack White, I think I think I do have a lot of influences. I think from metal, I think I'm influenced in a way by Rammstein. I think maybe the if you ever listen to Rammstein, it's very rhythmic song. It has a lot of rhythm to it, and I really like simple rhythms, and I think there is influence to that. I think the way I create drums is influenced by the simplicity of Avicii tracks. I really like that straight kick that could. For some reason, I don't know why. I think is the best rhythm you can get. But yeah, I really have phases in a way. There are phases where I listen to metal. Right now, I'm into 80s pop, synth pop music and electronic music. So a lot of stuff.
Oh, we love a bit of 80s synth as well.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we love a bit of everything. But that, yeah, always good to get into that. So we're now going to hear a second track from you. Do you just want to talk about just a little bit about that one before we play it? So tell us what's your next one about?
So this has a more light theme. So it's a song essentially globally overall. It's a song about letting go after a breakup. The song, interestingly, I think I wrote the lyrics for the verse separately to the chorus because I was writing a new song and I came up with the lyrics for the verse, but then I was like, I can't write the lyrics for the chorus. So I went back to my old kind of drafts and some kind of lines that I came up with, and I found the chorus from another song that I wrote, and it was a very primitive song, that maybe had like maybe 3 or 4 chords, and I just dragged the chorus from that song and put it in the new one. But essentially, it's about how you feel, how you don't want to move forward after a breakup, how you don't want to how you just want to lay down and just lay down and lie there forever, until the end of the universe. But at the end, you got to find inner strength to continue. And after all, everything is going to pass by, and that refers to the title of the song.
Okay, so this is Edward House with Everything Is Gonna Pass By.
Reaching close and making their way through me. You may only call it off for tomorrow morning. You'll never see me cry, 'cause I'll never will. Please hear me beyond the distance. My words no longer belong to me. I know when the rain comes I'll be safe, and I'll never be buried under the rain. So when the sun will softly cover marvelous hour, understand there is nothing to fear, 'cause everything is gonna pass by. When the sun will softly cover, sit in this marvelous hour, understand there is nothing to fear, 'cause everything is gonna pass by. Walking a mile in my enemy's shoes, but I'm surely will win and my enemies will lose, 'cause I'm choosing a place where I watch rise and fall, rise and fall. And the taste of freedom that used to never fit me is now beginning a feeling of comfortable liberty, while I'm noticing a wink of eye of life. I'm staring at the light of happiness. My wisdom can't deny my senses tiredness. I'm falling along, waiting for nobody else. So when the sun will softly cover, sit in this marvelous hour, understand there is nothing to fear, 'cause everything is gonna pass by. When the sun will softly cover, sit in this marvelous hour, understand there is nothing to fear, 'cause everything is gonna pass by. it's so cold. Rescue me. Water's running down from the ceiling. Chain close and making their way through me. You may only call it off for tomorrow morning. You'll never see me cry, 'cause I'll never will.
So that was Everything Is Going to Pass By, and Edward House is still with us. So obviously you've got all of your stuff that's out there on all the sort of streaming sites, on Spotify. So please do go and check out Edward. But we just want to know what's next for you. Where are you heading? What direction are you heading in now?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of it because I thought that I said everything, within this project within Edward House, and I was thinking about starting a new one. But partly because I don't really kind of like the name, and partly because I think I've grown out of the music that I made as Edward House. I'm currently thinking about doing more electronic stuff, more I think more 80s influence. So I'm playing with synths and different sounds and samples. So maybe to reference a band, maybe Foals, that kind of stuff, but less guitar oriented, more electronic oriented. So yeah, that's kind of direction that I'm thinking right now.
Oh, that does some exciting stuff. So yeah, we look forward to hearing what else you come up with. Thank you very much, Edward. Like we said, please do go and check him out. He's on YouTube, he's on Spotify, so go and have a look after you finish listening to this podcast. Otherwise, thank you very much, Edward, and we hope that we'll be able to catch up with you at some point in the future.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
That's all we've got time for today on the UoR Music Podcast. Have you enjoyed yourself, Ben?
I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. That was great. It was fantastic music and great conversation.
Yeah, two really, really bright up-and-coming artists. I hope we hear plenty more from them in the future. Otherwise, I've been James Smith. This has been Ben Stone, and we will see you again next week.